Hi guys! In this video I'm going to explain why I want you to think of running as strength training when you're coming back from an injury. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Maryke. I'm one of the physiotherapists from sportsinjuryphysio.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment for your injuries. Have a look at the description of this video for a link to our website. Okay, so why do I want you to think of running when you come back to running as strength training? Well, let me put it to you this way. Take an Achilles injury, for instance. So you've done your calf strain. You've done your calf exercises with body weight 3 times 15. Maybe you've even added some extra weight on it. Maybe even up to 12, 15 kilos, 10, 20% of your body weight. When you run, 6 to 8 times your body weight, or forces equal to 6 to 8 times your body weight, goes through your Achilles tendon and your calf muscle. So you can see that there's a little bit of a mismatch between your rehab and your running. Now that doesn't mean that you've got to train your calf up to that level before you can start running. It's just why you need to treat your running and your return to running slightly differently when you come back from injury. And that counts for all parts of the body. As soon as you've got a plyometric type action, which running is, the force on the tendons, the muscles, the joints, everything increases dramatically. And we've got to use that stimulus to strengthen them. So remember, when we do exercise, we always get microtrauma. And let me just get that up. That microtrauma repairs in that yellow phase, and then you're stronger for the next time. And that's quite normal. But if you actually train at an intensity that's too much compared to how strong the tissue is or the endurance of the tissue, you'll get breakdown at the bottom instead of the repair cycle. It won't be able to repair that quickly. So when we think of injured tissue, muscles, tendons, whatever, we think with regards to strength, but also endurance. So it may be strong enough to do a bit of running, but it may not have the endurance to do X amount of running. So if you do too much of it, it can also cause it to break down. And the typical story I get from people is that they were all fine, did their rehab, and then they went back to running. And the first time around they tried 3K or 5K because that's usually a distance that's easy for them. Got about 3/4 through, and then the calf strained again, or whatever muscle or tendon was injured started hurting again. And what that tells us is that that injury site had strength to cope with running, but only that much of running, or at this speed. And therefore, because they went too far, it's now re-injured. So how can you mitigate against this? The other thing that's important as well is often people get away with those first few runs. So they'll do a 3K, absolutely fine. 5K, absolutely fine. And they'll build for a couple of weeks and feel quite strong. And then suddenly it will come back. And that's because the cardiovascular system and the rest of the body can adapt much more quickly to the new exercise, which is running because you've had a break, than the injured site. Because we see that injured site is inherently unfitter than the rest of the body. An unfit tissue that's not that well trained takes a little bit longer to recover after training sessions. So you may even get cumulative overload when you come back to running the first time. So how can you avoid this, and how can you treat running or your return to running as strength training? Well, the easiest way is a slow introduction. So you start with a run-walk program. And run-walking is really, really boring because it often involves doing 1 minute run, 1 minute walks for no longer than 20 minutes, depending on how bad your injury is. Sometimes people can get away with bigger blocks, like 3 to 4 minutes run, 1 minute walk. What that 1 minute walk does is it's kind of like that break you take when you strength train between sets. So for instance, you'll do a set, you'll rest a minute or two. Do a set, rest a minute or two. And what that does is it allows all the cells to replenish their energy and to just recover that a little bit, so that now when you train them again, they are ready for it and they've got better endurance and they can cope with it, so they're not being depleted. And that's what the walk sections in a run-walk program does. So usually I get my patients to follow a run-walk program, depending on how serious the injury was and how sensitive it is, anything from a week to 3-4 weeks sometimes. But yeah, that's very variable on the person and how quickly they adapt. Then we tend to work for endurance first. So you've also got to think about the frequency of your runs in the week. Usually it's best to leave at least a day or 2 days between runs so that the body can fully recover after a run. Because remember now, your cardiovascular and your muscles may recover more quickly, but that injury site may take a little bit longer to repair, especially if it was a tendon or a ligament or cartilage that you injured. So think about the frequency there, that you don't do it too often. Then, so endurance. You want to get to a decent volume of running, and that what decent volume of running means will be different from person to person. So if you only ever do 5 to 10 Ks, then getting up to doing a slow 5K 3-4 times a week, that's your decent volume of slow running. If you're an endurance athlete though, it's going to have to be a lot longer runs and frequency and probably more frequent ones that you need to cope with at an easy pace first before you can start thinking about speed work. Because the faster you run, the higher the forces through the body and the more strain on the tissue. So we use the slow volume or the slow running, endurance running, to get your base strength or running strength into that tissue. So now you've got that, we need to start introducing speed sessions. But again, think about this. Speed sessions counts as high intensity training and we need longer recovery times. So preferably just add one faster session in the week first to see how you recover from that. And I find usually injuries cope better with if you do tempo runs and get your tempo runs up first before you go into hill running and last go into full out track sessions. Tempo runs again, that's relative to your fitness level at that time and the injury status at that time. So if before you were injured, you were doing marathon pace tempo runs, don't go into that for the first few runs. Only increase so if you look at your easy pace that you've been running your normal endurance slow runs at, and just up that pace by 20-30 seconds or something, just to test it if you have tempo runs at a slightly faster pace, how it copes with that. And then depending on how you adapt to that, you can maybe increase with bigger chunks. It depends on your body. But don't just go from, okay, slow normal pace into my normal fast running pace that I was doing pre-injury. Yes, and then like I said, tempo runs first, comfortable with them. You may be able to add in some hill runs, comfortable with them. Then think about full out track sessions. But again, I would ease into those, doing the track sessions at about 70-80% speed first. If it's okay and it handles it well, ramp up the speed over time. Very well, let me know if you've got any questions, and if you need more help with an injury, you're always welcome to consult one of us via video call. Link to the website is in the description of this video. Take care.